Every life is built quietly in the background, through small decisions that seem invisible in the moment, but become undeniable in the results. Jim Rohn always said, "Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day." And the truth is, habits are the strongest form of compound interest in the world. Simple actions, repeated long enough, become powerful dividends that shape destiny. It's never the big moments that build a successful life. It's the hundreds of tiny choices made when no one is watching, when motivation is low, and when no applause exists. That is where champions separate themselves. People often wait for motivation, but winners build rituals. They design their days so the day can't control them. And once discipline becomes identity, effort becomes automatic. You start waking up early not because you have to, but because it feels natural. You choose learning over scrolling because your mind is trained to choose growth. You make sacrifices not with pain but with pride, because you finally understand the reward is much bigger than the momentary comfort. A single good habit won't change your life tomorrow, but it will start changing who you become today. And that shift, however small, is where transformation begins. Those quiet choices accumulate until one day they speak louder than your excuses ever did. Imagine your life as a bank account where every habit is either a deposit or a withdrawal. Some people wake up every day making emotional decisions, reacting to life, complaining about circumstances, not realizing they're draining their account dry. But a wise person builds routines that invest back into their future. Jim Rohn taught that discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons, and nothing proves this more than the difference between someone who repeatedly builds good habits and someone who repeatedly postpones them. One person begins reading 10 minutes a day, another says, "I'll start tomorrow." One practices gratitude each morning, the other scrolls through negativity. One spends time developing skills, the other wastes time waiting for luck. Years later, the difference is massive not because of one big choice, but because of thousands of tiny ones. The dividends of discipline show up quietly at first. A sharper mind, better decisions, more confidence. Then they accelerate, opportunities appear. People respect your consistency, and success begins to chase you because you've become someone worth chasing. Just like compound interest, the magic happens after the boring part is over, after you've done the work no one applauded, and after you've stayed committed long enough for the results to finally catch up. There comes a moment when you realize your life isn't determined by conditions, upbringing, or the opinions of others. It's determined by the habits you practice when no one is clapping for you. Jim Rohn believed life responds to value, and habits are how you build that value inside yourself. Every time you push yourself to grow, you raise your worth. Every time you practice discipline, you increase your earning potential. Every time you choose the hard thing over the easy thing, you separate yourself from average. Most people underestimate what a habit can do because the results don't scream immediately. Going to bed early doesn't change your life in 24 hours. Reading a page doesn't make you a genius overnight. Saving a small amount doesn't make you rich today. But if you stay loyal to the process, something magical happens. Your mind becomes stronger, your actions become sharper, and your life starts moving in a direction you once thought was reserved for lucky people. The truth is, it was never luck. It was the compounded dividends of habits done behind closed doors. It was the quiet victories that no one saw but everyone eventually felt. And once you taste the power of disciplined habits, you never go back to a lazy version of yourself again. Every life is shaped in the shadows long before it shines in the spotlight, crafted quietly through small decisions that often feel insignificant in the moment, but ultimately carry the weight of destiny. Jim Rohn always reminded us that success is not complicated. It is simply the result of a few disciplines practiced consistently, just as failure is the result of a few errors in judgment repeated regularly. When you look closely at the people who rise, who evolve, who break through barriers, you'll notice something powerful. They weren't relying on luck, talent, or even motivation. They built habits. They built patterns of behavior so strong that even on days when their emotions were weak, their routine carried them. Habits are the secret engine room of success, the invisible architecture that builds a meaningful life. It's never the dramatic moments that determine your future. It's not the one big speech, the single lucky break, the sudden opportunity that falls into your lap. Those moments only matter because of the preparation that came before them. The truth is, the real transformation happens in the forgotten hours, in the times when you decide to read for 10 minutes instead of scrolling for another hour. In the mornings when you push yourself to get up even though the bed feels warm, the world feels cold, and no one would even know if you stayed asleep. In the evenings when you reflect on your day and commit to doing just one thing better tomorrow. These aren't grand gestures, yet they create a momentum that compounds with every passing day. People often wait for motivation to show up like a friend who's running late. But champions don't wait, they build. They construct routines that carry them through storms, through boredom, through doubt. When everyone else is distracted by comfort, they are investing in their growth. When everyone else is making excuses about time, they are creating space for excellence. The difference isn't intelligence or strength, it's discipline turned into identity. Something remarkable happens when a habit becomes part of who you are. Waking up early becomes your nature, not a battle. Making thoughtful choices becomes your instinct, not an effort. You begin to crave progress the way others crave entertainment. You start choosing books over distractions, meaningful conversations over gossip, long-term vision over short-term pleasure. And without realizing it, you start building a life that others admire from a distance without understanding the sacrifices behind it. The beautiful thing about habits is that the rewards rarely show up immediately. There's a quiet period, a silent stretch of time where you are doing the right things and seeing very little return. And this is where most people quit, not because the habit doesn't work, but because they expect a harvest before the seed has had time to grow. Jim Rohn said, "You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight." And habits are how you change that direction. The results come later. The transformation begins now. Every effort you make deposits something into your character account. Each small discipline adds a brick to the foundation of your future. It may feel slow, insignificant, and even boring at times, but it is exactly this slow accumulation that turns ordinary people into extraordinary examples of what consistency can build. And there's a moment, a beautiful turning point, where everything you've built internally starts to show externally. People begin to see the confidence in your posture, the clarity in your decisions, the strength in your choices. What they don't see is the movie of silent mornings, late nights, personal commitments, and private battles that made that version of you possible. Most people underestimate what a single habit can do because they judge it by the first week or the first month. But a habit practiced for a year, 5 years, 10 years, this is where life changes dramatically. This is where you look back and say, I can't believe how far I've come. And the truth is, you didn't leap to success. You climbed to it, one disciplined step at a time. Life rewards the consistent, the committed, the ones who choose growth even when it's not exciting. And the real victory isn't even in the results. It's in who you become through the process. Because once your habits upgrade your identity, the world has no choice but to upgrade your opportunities. That is the real dividend. That is the true payoff of daily discipline. Imagine your life as a bank account where every decision you make becomes either a deposit or a withdrawal. Most people don't realize this. They move through the day reacting to small frustrations, drifting with distractions, making choices based on mood instead of purpose. They don't notice how each choice quietly shapes their future. They don't notice how the emotional spending of time, energy, and attention slowly empties their possibility. Yet a wise person becomes intentional. A wise person understands that each moment is a chance to invest in a better version of themselves. Jim Rohn often said that discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons. And when you truly understand this, you begin to see the powerful difference between people who build habits and people who postpone life until later. Picture two individuals standing at the same starting point. One chooses to read just 10 minutes a day. The other keeps saying, I know I should, but I'll start tomorrow. One begins journaling or practicing gratitude, shaping their mind slowly but surely. The other wakes up and grabs their phone, flooding their brain with noise before their day even truly begins. One takes time to study a skill, build expertise, and nurture potential. The other waits for motivation or inspiration to appear like magic. If you compare them after a week, they will look the same. Even after a month, the difference might still seem small, but over a year, over 5 years, over a decade, the gap becomes a canyon, not because of fate, luck, or talent, but because of direction. Habits, like money in a savings account, grow in silence. They compound quietly at first, almost invisibly, until one day the payoff becomes too big to ignore. The person who invested in reading now speaks differently. They think differently. They respond to challenges differently. Their mind has been sharpened by tiny daily deposits. The person who practiced gratitude begins to glow with a calm confidence. They have perspective. They aren't shaken by small storms because their inner world has become strong, grounded, and disciplined. And the person who invested in developing skills becomes someone the world values, because value increases when you do. On the other side, the person who kept delaying, postponing, avoiding, remains stuck, confused, and frustrated. They wonder why others seem to advance while they remain at the same level. They don't realize that each excuse was a withdrawal, each delay was a missed deposit, each day spent reacting instead of creating was money lost from their future. Life doesn't punish them loudly. It punishes them silently. Regret doesn't scream, it whispers. It appears in moments of disappointment, moments of wishing you had started earlier, moments of watching someone else achieve what you could have built if you had just stayed consistent. The dividends of discipline are not like flash sales. They don't show up instantly. They appear slowly, subtly, sometimes so quietly you don't notice at first. You begin to feel more focused. You start understanding things more deeply. You catch yourself making decisions that reflect your growth. You realize you're becoming someone you once admired from a distance. These small internal victories are signs that your habits are paying off. And once they accumulate, something magical happens. Opportunities come looking for you. People trust you. They respect your consistency. They gravitate toward your energy. Success begins to follow you, not because you're lucky, but because your habits made you a magnet for growth. Most people think big achievements come from big actions, but big achievements actually come from consistent small actions. The seeds you plant today may not break the soil tomorrow, but they are growing beneath the surface. They are developing roots, building strength, preparing to rise. The problem is, many people dig up their seeds too early. They say it's not working or nothing is happening, and they stop right before the breakthrough. Habits require patience. They require faith in the invisible. They require the willingness to believe that small daily disciplines will eventually create visible results. Life opens its doors slowly to the person who refuses to quit. The one who keeps depositing into their mind, their body, their character, their craft. The one who shows up even when no applause exists, because once the compounding effect kicks in, it becomes unstoppable. Reading one book won't change your life. Reading 50 will. Exercising for 1 week won't transform your body. 6 months will. Practicing a skill for 1 hour won't make you an expert. Consistent daily practice will. The person who embodies discipline becomes someone extraordinary, not by force, but by repetition. Years later, when people look at your achievements, they will assume it happened quickly. They will call you lucky. They will admire the result, but never fully understand the journey. They won't see the days you pushed yourself when you were tired, the choices you made when comfort was tempting, the moments you practiced discipline when no one was watching. They won't realize that your success is simply the visible proof of invisible habits practiced over time. That is the true power of discipline. That is the miracle of compounding effort. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that the world isn't shaping them as much as they are shaping themselves, that their circumstances might influence their journey, but their habits determine their direction. Jim Rohn always said that life responds to value, and habits are how you build that value from the inside out. They are the small, consistent acts of self-respect that signal to the world, I am becoming more, I am growing, I am preparing for the opportunities I once only dreamed about. The truth is, every time you choose discipline over comfort, you raise your worth. You send a message to yourself that you are capable of more than you once believed, and that message begins to rewrite your identity in powerful ways. Most people never discover their real potential, not because they don't dream big enough, but because they repeat the same habits that keep them small. They stay trapped in routines that weaken instead of strengthen. They start their day with distractions instead of intention. They fill their mind with noise instead of knowledge. They let procrastination steal their future 1 hour at a time. And then they wonder why life feels stuck, why progress feels slow, why their dreams feel far away. But the truth is brutally simple. You cannot create a strong life with weak habits. You cannot build a powerful future with inconsistent actions. You cannot expect extraordinary rewards when your daily behavior is ordinary. Habits are the real difference makers, not talent, not luck, not timing. Habits, the quiet things you do behind closed doors when nobody sees you, nobody praises you, and nobody claps for you. That's where real transformation happens. It happens in the moments you choose to keep pushing even when you don't feel inspired. It happens in the moments you choose a book instead of a distraction. It happens when you commit to doing the hard thing, not because it is easy, not because it is fun, but because it is the right thing for the person you want to become. And the strange, beautiful thing about habits is that the results do not show up instantly. You do not wake up stronger after one good decision. You do not become wise after reading one page. You do not master anything after practicing for a single day. The beginning is quiet, almost invisible. It feels like nothing is happening. It feels like you are doing all the work but seeing none of the payoff, and this is where most people quit, not because they are incapable, but because they cannot see past the silence of early discipline. They quit right before the breakthrough. They stop right before the compounding kicks in. But something extraordinary happens when you keep going. When you stay loyal to the habit long enough, you start to feel the shift. Your mind becomes clearer, your confidence becomes stronger, your decisions become sharper, you begin carrying yourself differently, speaking differently, thinking differently, and people around you can sense it. They might not know exactly what changed, but they can feel the difference. You become a person with momentum. You become a person with direction. You become a person who is no longer controlled by emotion, but guided by purpose. The habits you build behind the scenes become the results people admire in public. When you see someone living a life that inspires you, what you're really seeing is the accumulation of habits done faithfully, consistently, and quietly. When you see someone with confidence, you're seeing the result of years of self-improvement. When you see someone financially stable, you're seeing the result of years of disciplined choices. When you see someone skilled and respected, you're seeing the result of countless hours of practice that nobody knew about. Success is always built in silence before it is celebrated in public. The beautiful part is that once habits reshape your identity, everything else becomes easier. The same actions that felt heavy in the beginning start feeling natural. Waking up early becomes part of who you are. Working hard feels normal. Avoiding distractions becomes effortless. Your old comfort zone feels too small for you now. You don't need motivation every day because your routine has become automatic. You stop fighting yourself and start supporting yourself. The discipline that once felt like a battle becomes a lifestyle. And then the dividends begin to appear, not just in opportunities, but in how you see yourself. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You begin to believe in your ability to follow through. You begin to realize that you are capable of far more than you gave yourself credit for. You begin to understand that your future is not built by chance, but by choice. Every day becomes a chance to invest in your greatness. Every habit becomes a step toward the life you imagined. Every small decision becomes a brick in the foundation of your destiny. Most people spend their lives waiting for a miracle, but the real miracle is already available. It's in the daily habits that slowly, silently, certainly transform who you are. And once you've tasted the power of discipline, once you've felt the momentum of good habits carry you forward, you never go back to the weaker version of yourself again. You start living with intention, with clarity, with purpose. and life responds to that version of you with opportunities you once thought were out of reach. And now, as we come to the closing moments of this journey, I want you to pause and ask yourself a simple question. What habits are building my future right now? Not the habits you hope to start someday, not the things you wish you were doing, but the routines you are living today. Because whether you realize it or not, your habits are writing the story of your life. Every day, the pen is in your hand. Every day, you choose what kind of character you are becoming. Imagine standing face to face with the future version of yourself. Picture that person clearly. And now imagine them asking you, "Did you show up for me? Did you take care of the habits that would make me strong? Did you protect the future we both dream about?" What would you answer? Because the truth is, one day you will meet that version of yourself, and the person you meet will be shaped by the choices you're making right now in these quiet, ordinary, unseen moments. This is where greatness actually begins. Not in front of cameras, not in big achievements, but in whispers to yourself like, "Get up, try again, give more, don't quit, keep going." These are the silent dialogues that build champions, and if you listen closely, you'll hear them speaking inside you even now. Every successful person, every powerful leader, every individual who transformed their life had a moment when they looked in the mirror and said, "Enough. It's time to become the person I'm capable of being." They didn't wait for a perfect day. They didn't wait for motivation to strike like lightning. They said, "The moment is now." And they built habits that aligned with their future instead of their feelings. There will be days when discipline feels heavy. Days when your emotions try to negotiate with you, whispering, "Skip it today, you can start tomorrow." But that's the moment you respond with power. That's the moment you look your excuses in the eye and say, "No, you don't control me anymore." In that dialogue, those small confrontations with yourself are the moments that rewrite your destiny, because every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're having a private conversation with your future self that says, "I'm doing this for you." Every time you push through resistance, you're saying, "We don't settle anymore." Every time you keep going when others quit, you whisper, "We rise from now on." Habits are not just actions, they're promises. Promises you make and keep with yourself, and keeping those promises builds confidence. Real confidence, the kind that doesn't shout but walks tall. Jim Rohn said, "The greatest form of discipline is consistency." And when you live consistently, your life begins to shift in ways you can feel, ways you can see, and ways that others can't help but notice. Picture a voice inside you saying, "You're better than the version you were yesterday." Your habits are how you respond, "Yes, I am, and I'm proving it." Picture another voice, the old one, the one filled with fear saying, "What if you fail?" And now hear your new voice answer, "What if I rise? What if I win? What if this is the chapter that changes everything?" This is the dialogue of transformation. This is the conversation of a person who refuses to surrender their future to old patterns. And if right now you're thinking, "But I've broken habits before, I've started and stopped, I've tried and failed," then let me speak to you directly. You are not your past habits. You are not your old mistakes. You are not the weaker version of yourself. You are becoming something new, and becoming is messy, becoming is uncomfortable, becoming is filled with moments where you doubt yourself. But those moments are not a sign to quit. They're a sign you're on the right path, because the path to any meaningful future will challenge you. It will stretch you. It will test your patience. It will demand that you let go of who you were so you can step into who you are meant to be. And if you stay consistent, you will eventually hear a voice inside you whisper, "I'm proud of you. Keep going. There is a version of your life waiting for you that you haven't even imagined yet. There's strength in you that you haven't met. There's discipline in you that's been sleeping. There's greatness in you that's waiting to be awakened by your habits. And when that greatness wakes up, the world won't be able to ignore you. So let this moment be your turning point. Let this moment be the moment you say, I choose habits that make me powerful. I choose routines that lift me higher. I choose discipline because my future is worth it. Let this moment be the moment where your dialogue changes from I hope to I will, from someday to today, from maybe to absolutely. Your new life is built one small habit at a time, one small promise kept, one small win repeated. And if you commit, truly commit, those habits will pay dividends far greater than anything you can imagine today. They will build a future filled with purpose, strength, abundance, and pride, and the world will look at you and say, "How did you do it?" And with a quiet smile, you'll know the truth. It was built in the habits no one saw, but everyone can now feel.